We're back. Been away a while, I know. Work, weather, just hard to get out there. We've still been playing, we've still been hitting, but not anything crazy. But we finally got out today. It's the holiday weekend, it's the July 4th weekend. We had an extra day off. We got out and we hit a little bit. What do we got? Well, something different, right? Something way beyond what I'd ever play. Do any of you guys out there remember Spalding? The sports company. They were kind of like Wilson. They made a lot of different things. Baseballs, baseball bats, basketballs, football. They were in a lot of stuff. And at one time, they made tennis rackets. They used to make a lot of tennis rackets. Sometime around the late 90s, they kind of exited the tennis market. And then very early 2000s, I went like around maybe 2004, they re-entered. They re-entered with a series of rackets endorsed by the ATP Pro Series from Spalding. My understanding around that same time, Stalwart also had an ATP-sponsored kind of racket. We have 3 of them. We're going to talk about them. We're going to show a little footage hitting them, just a little, because they're a bit hefty. I think the idea, or at least from what I've gathered online, the idea at the time was to offer pro-level players that didn't have sponsors, pro-level players, low-ranked pros that didn't have any kind of racket sponsorship, a pro-quality product to play on the ATP Tour at a cost that they could afford, or at no cost. I'm not sure how they did it then. So Spalding made some, Stalwart made some, and they were available for the ATP pros as well as the regular market. I think the idea might have been, we're going to give these low-ranked pros high-quality equipment that are built to spec for a pro player, and then maybe one of them will, shoot up in the rankings and become immensely popular, and then we'll sell rackets. Maybe that was the plan. I don't know. I'm speculating here. But I have 3 of them. We're going to look at them. We're going to start with the lightest one that I have. Now, there were 2 versions of these rackets made. This is an ATP Tour Pro Line 230. It's weird. This is the only one I can't find spec information on. They made a 250, they made a 200, a 300, a 350. This is a 230, and I can't find any information on the 230. I can tell you it is extended. It's 27.5 inches long. It's around 355 grams strung. I'm going to guess the swing weight also around 350 plus, because all of these models were. Long, heavy box beam, right? I'd say it's probably about a 20 millimeter box beam, roughly. Very, very solid feeling stick, but it's a lot of weight. As I said, I don't know much about it. I've tried to track it down. Nothing comes back. This is the lightest version that we have today for what we're going to be hitting later. So let's move to something that I was able to track down on spec. This is an ATP Tour Pro Line 200. Now I'm saying very specifically Pro Line because in all of these rackets, they also made an ATP Tour Pro Stock. The idea being the Pro Line were the lighter, more manageable frames. The Pro Stocks were the heavier ones. The racket finder online says that this racket weighs 283 grams strung with like a 340 swing weight. That data is wrong. It is incredibly wrong. That's why I acquired one. I was like, how do you have a racket so light but swings so heavy? This racket was measured and spec'd by the seller before they sent it to me. It is 365 grams. It has a 373 swing weight. This is not a racket built for your average club level player. So I don't know why as a pro line they would advertise it as the more manageable frame. It is a 27-inch standard length, box beam. I'd say probably similar to the 230. This might be a tad thinner, but it is a box beam frame. Massive weight, huge swing weight. I mean, by today's standards, this is a ridiculous frame anyway. 90 square inch head. A lot to swing. So after we acquired those two, we decided, okay, what else can we find? So we went for the big boy. The biggest, the heaviest, the highest swing weight. And we tracked one down. And it is the ATP Tour Pro line, I'm sorry, Pro Stock, right? Because the stocks are heavier than the Pro line. Pro Stock 300. This is a 95 square inch racket, 27 inches, leather grip. 374 grams, 392 swing weight. Not a box bean. This one's more rounded, a little thicker, probably around a 22 or 23 millimeter. Ridiculous weight. It is 4 points headlight. The others are a bit better in that regard in terms of balance, but just an absolute 2x4. It's like swinging a bat. I don't know why they felt they needed to make a racket this heavy with this high of a swing weight for pro players in like the early 2000s. Yeah, I get the rackets back then were heavier because they were, but not like this. This is just, I mean, I guess the idea was pro players who were increasing their weight on their rackets with lead wouldn't need to, that this thing would, you know, it comes pre-built for maximum weight and swing weight. It's just, it's not fun. We are going to go out and hit these briefly. I'm not going to hit extended terms with these. They're just far too heavy. The swing weights are far too high. I like rackets in that 330 to 340 range. Swing weight around 325, 330. I'm actually trying to work that down on the weight. I'm trying to stay around like the 330, 335 max weight on my rackets now. With around a 325 swing weight, it'd be perfect. Not flexible. The 200 is a 64 RA, which that's not too bad. The 230, I have no idea because I can't find any information. The 300 is a 71. So massive heavy, huge swing weight, and super stiff. This is going to destroy your arm over time. I mean, you'd have to be an incredible physical athlete to manage this stick for a long term. You know, and a lot of pro players probably could. This is not made for us mortals. So let's get out. Let's give them a short swing. I'll tell you how they feel. You watch me shank some balls. It'll be good times, just like always. Let's go. All right, starting with the Spalding Pro Line 230, 95 square inch, 27.5 inches length, 355 grams. Not sure on the swing weight, but I expect it's going to be in that 350 plus range. It's the lightest of the ones we're pulling out today. Box beam. Oof, rough start here. This fell off for me. The racket feels solid, like no hollow feeling at all. The issue I'm having, and I feel really awkward hitting backhands, which normally I like hitting backhands, but I feel really awkward with it. It's the length. I feel like I'm mistiming a lot of these balls. And sailing them long, catching them late. It was a bit of a struggle. A little bit of wind out there today, pushing the balls a little deeper than I anticipated. Oof, that was off the frame, late. Oh, look at that, it's pushed me all the way out of frame, great. Anyway, we've switched over the forehands. I have been struggling with my forehand ever since I came back. I have good days and bad days. This is definitely not a good day. The extra half-inch length was really throwing me off on my timing, worse than normal. I really felt late on most of these swings. And despite this being the lighter of the group, it did not feel great to hit. I felt jammed a lot. It just, the length is, I've hit extra extended length rackets before, like a Nova. I've hit an extended length Radical. And I've hit a Burn 95 SV, the countervails, I'm sorry, CV, the countervail. But the burn was only like a 1/4 inch longer, so it wasn't as bad. The others were all 1/2 inch or more, and I also hit the Diablo extended as well, and the Brent's racket. And I don't like extended rackets. I kind of feel off with them. Not a fan. That is just too heavy. But, you know, as heavy as that one was, let's move it up about 10 grams. The Pro Line 200, 90 square inches, 27 inch length, but 365 grams and a 373 swing weight. This felt way worse on my arm, but I felt like I hit it more clean, especially off the backhand side. Wait for the machine to get started here. Come on. Little loopy. Trying to get used to it. Prepping was a bit of an issue today with these rackets. They're all just far too heavy. This one has an RA of 64, so the comfort is a little better. But it's just a lot of weight. A lot of stuff right at the top of the tape. Just, it feels difficult to bring the racket around. It just feels too heavy to get that racket around to meet the ball out in front. It's just a lot to swing. I can't imagine, you know. It's astounding that pros play weights close to this. I know, like on tour right now, like Gabriel Fields and like Stan Wawrinka, they play their rackets very heavy, like that 360, 370 gram range, which is around what this is. Forehands felt a little bit better with this. I wasn't as jammed in my spacing, but I did feel kind of late coming around with the ball. The good part of it was, like, as long as I hit the ball fairly clean, I didn't have much difficulty getting it over the net. The weight of the racket kind of just, the plow through just pushed the ball over. I didn't really have to swing hard to get the ball back into the court, even with the wind a little bit in my face. Like, just the weight of the racket and the swing weight alone would just push that ball wherever I wanted it, as long as I caught it clean in the string bed. But overall, like, very solid feeling racket, no sense of hollowness to it, but just so heavy. So now we're going to move on to the final racket of the group, the big boy,
Pro Stock.
Pro Stock 300. This is basically a 2x4. 71 RA, 95 square inch head, 375 grams with a 392 swing weight. This racket was not fun to hit at all. Super late on that ball. There we go. Again, like, as long as the racket came around in time to make contact out in front, I did not have to really swing hard. The racket did most of the work for me. I'm getting a lot. There's a nice one. Oh, right in the tape again. Hit a lot right into the tape. Just barely have to move that racket forward for that ball to go. Just has so much weight on it. And I actually hit a few less balls with this one than I did with the other two. It's just too heavy. I could feel this in my wrist, elbow, and shoulder pretty much immediately after hitting. As soon as I packed everything up, my arm was pretty sore from just hitting these rackets for like maybe 15-20 minutes total. It's just too much weight, too much pressure on the shoulder. That was not a bad one. Quick switch up there. We had a little issue with the machine. Back to hitting the 300 Pro Stock. Let's go. There we go. I mean, as I've said before with the other ones, it's the same with this. The racket has so much weight that as long as you make a solid, clean connection, that was not like that. With the ball, it'll go over. I mean, the weight of the racket just forces that ball across. But with it at 375 and a 392 swing weight, this thing is just an absolute bear to swing. It's like literally swinging a 2x4 around. Very stiff, too heavy. I can't imagine, pros using something like this today. But in one hand, I understand the concept of offering low-ranking pros who don't have racket deals access to, pro-quality equipment. But on the other hand, your profits are driven by sales at the club level, the recreational player level. That's where your profits are coming from. And you would not have made profits on this racket. Your average club player, your average recreational player cannot swing this racket. I can't swing this racket. I would never pick one of these up now. They kind of shot themselves in the foot, I think. But, that's why Spalding's no longer in the market. Any case, guys, thanks for tuning in and watching this disaster. We do have more on the way. Some new things, some old things, but we'll see you again soon.